Lily James plays the world's hottest maths teacher, a woman friend-zoned by a doe-eyed schlub permanently wearing the expression of a man asked to explain the finer points of carpet weaving, but somehow still intelligent enough to manipulate a shift in the multiverse. Let's be honest, you need Richard Curtis writing to try and make an idea that absurd actually fly. All you need is love. And music rights, evidently. Yeah, Richard Curtis is back, so presumably there'll be a delay in him getting around to the inevitable 10-minute-long Red Nose Day sequel short to Notting Hill. Yesterday is about as Richard Curtis a movie as you can possibly get. It's twee, it's British, it's got that very, very specific attitude to Americans and, well, Beatles. It's not his best one. For me, that's always Notting Hill, followed by Love Actually, but it's a pretty likeable, charming, and engaging one, even if it does make no damn sense under literally any kind of scrutiny. And yes, I know I keep calling Yesterday a Richard Curtis movie, even though it's directed by Danny Boyle, but just go with me on this, there's reasoning. So it introduces Himesh Patel. I say introduces because that's what the trailer says. About a dude with a prominent role for nearly a decade on a nightly soap opera apparently watched by an average of 7 million people every night, but sure, whatever gets your rocks off, marketing team. Anyway, Himesh Patel plays Jack Malik, a former teacher turned struggling musician desperate for any chance to... No, I'm sorry, I don't get it. He was on EastEnders for 9 years. He has 11 IMDb credits to his name before this movie, and was actually the focal point of a number of that show's web series and spin-off projects. How on earth is it introducing Himesh Patel? Woosa. So, Jack's struggling to make it as a musician, his life slowly flushing itself down the crapper, and then one night a global power surge results in him being hit by a bus and waking up to discover the Beatles never existed, which is a status quo he decides to exploit by passing off the iconic works of John Paul, George and Ringo as his own and becoming an overnight superstar of such towering stature that they allow him to meet James Corden, or, you know, it might be a dream sequence. The movie's kind of hazy on that, to be honest. For reals though, a movie involving a musician appearing on The Late Late Show, not including a mention, just even a mention of carpool karaoke, that does suggest other chat show hosts were considered. Also considered was apparently Chris Martin for a role now played by Ed Sheeran, to the thundering effect of something similar to David Beckham in King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Sheeran apparently knew he was the second choice, he just didn't know it was Chris Martin who turned it down. An element of inferiority and suspense, which might go somewhere to explain why he is so bad in this. Just so bad. That Game of Thrones cameo was like Glengarry Glen Ross at the side of this. But there's always one in a Richard Curtis movie. Everybody loved Four Weddings, and Andie MacDowell was straight up terrible in that. But give Lil James her due here. She may literally exist to be nothing more than a love interest in Yesterday, but like the movie itself, she's charming enough to pull it off. It's the same with Patel. He's ineffectual as all hell, but he's got likability, and that actually is Yesterday. It's exactly the movie you think it is from the trailer, the one that introduces Himesh Patel. It's got a rockin' soundtrack, obviously, it's cute, it's pretty funny, it's got some charm to spare, it's bafflingly illogical and sports a concept Goodnight Sweetheart once pulled off better with George Formby, but way more about it works than doesn't, so it comes up a winner by the end. I laughed a lot at the supporting cast, folk like Sanjeev Bhaskar, who slays, Kate McKinnon as the token Curtisian Yang, Mira Sayal, and my personal MVP here, Plebs' Joel Fry is what can only be described as Glasto's Stifler. It's nicely enough put together by Danny Boyle, even if he is literally phoning it in to merely look and feel like a Richard Curtis movie, up to and including utilizing the talents of the cinematographer behind such visual orgies as, I don't know, Dad's Army and Get Santa. See, that's the problem with Yesterday right there. You can like it, you can be charmed by it, love it even, but when you even vaguely begin to step back and look at it, those little flaws start to look a lot bigger. There's a running gag in this about changes to the timeline brought about by the Beatles not existing, like Oasis never formed, for instance, but the examples they go on to use make next to no sense, or they require way too much foreknowledge and research, and it's hard to give them the pass on it when everyone's making those gags and all holding phones, tablets, and computers literally adorned with a badge that shouldn't exist either. Also does sport the hold my beer answer to that 9/11 monologue from the opening of Love Actually too, though this one lasts an entire scene and somehow emerges even more lunk-headed. Look, it's fun, it's fine, it's enjoyable, it's charming. Just take the 3-star rating, go see it and just enjoy it. Just don't think about it. Trust me, I thought about it. Don't do that. Just enjoy this like it's quintessential British rom-com fluff, like Notting Hill and Love Actually, and you'll be fine. It's not as good as either, obviously, but it's fine. I liked it. Very, very different movie, meanwhile, is In Fabric, new flick from writer-director Peter Strickland that follows, and this is absolutely true, an evil red dress that brings misery to its owners. Kind of a Stephen King-y kind of a concept, set in the 70s and stylized as hell to match. It's so rooted in 70s Euro horror, especially for the first half, that it's really something to see. Maybe not enjoy, in the more popcorny sense, but definitely want to see. Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Leo Bill, and Haley Squires from I, Daniel Blake, they shared a bulk of the story's dramatic horror focus, with kind of a darkly comedic element in there by way of Steve Oram and the always fun Julian Barrett. Really, you ever seen Mindhorn? See Mindhorn, trust me. Gwendolyn Christie's in there too, playing something a bit different than we're used to seeing of her, and the whole thing kind of flies along with this otherworldly, ethereal kind of energy logic as the cast are pretty well anchored in such a way as to let it, you know? Like, this cast has been directed, you know what I mean? And because of that, it's hard not to be pretty instantly impressed with what Strickland's put out here. He brought us Barbarian Sound Studio, by the way. He's got the cinematographer responsible for the pretty gorgeous-looking Girlfriend Experience TV show rocking the frame. He's got Cavern of Antimatter rolling out this amazing old-school score, this sensibility that calls back to, like, Brood-era Cronenberg. There's just so much awesome stitched into In Fabric. Oh, no, shut up. Anyway, not a crowd pleaser, but one you will remember. Think of something like Under the Skin. 3 stars, not to everyone's taste, but it's a unique vision of a story you'd otherwise describe as Sisterhood of the Murderer's Frock, which this literally would have been if near anyone else were directing it. Let's talk Support the Girls then, which is out this week. Stars Regina Hall, Haley Lou Richardson, and is absolutely terrible. Ostensibly propped up as a sort of female-driven sports bar hybrid of Coyote Ugly and Waiting, it's not a tenth as good as either, and mostly serves to suck the life out of anyone watching it by being far too naff to work as a drama and far too unfunny to work as a comedy. Regina Hall, you'd think had suffered enough for having to have endured the Scary Movie sequels, is the manager of Double Whammies, basically Hooters by another name, but like an independent business owned by Roach from Point Break, evidently filling in the roles the late Bill Paxton used to take on for a goof. Anyway, over the course of the day, our intrepid manager will deal with new hires for a minute, a charity car wash, because of course there is, a jailed employee, an attempted robbery, and her own yearning to spread her proverbial wings. Not one single element of which is in any way engaging or even interesting. Support the Girls is thunderingly inert. It reminded me of John Cosgrove's 2006 faux Britcom Caffeine, and that is not a good comparison. It's also really shoddily made. I mean, Waiting like more of a robust cinematic build quality than this, which mostly just looks like stark iPhone footage with an overlay slapped on. You know what? Still Waiting was of a better grade than this. Nobody's interesting, nobody's engaging, and frankly, if Haley Lou Richardson weren't spending the entire movie trying to keep the party alive both within the movie and without, you could very easily just snooze through this. Being a throwback to the sort of ramshackle early naughty Kevin Smith thing gave Support the Girls such an easy mark to fall back on, but mostly it just sits there lifeless. 1 star. I genuinely can't think of anything good to say about it beyond Haley Lou Richardson having bags of charisma, but even that squandered. Squandering nothing, though, are Neon and CNN, who teamed up to make Apollo 11, which is out this week, airs on CNN too, and is timed to tie in with the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission and the moon landing. This is straight up awesome. This is a documentary made up entirely of archival footage of the mission, as well as actual 70mm NASA footage that's never been released before. So everything is authentic. The clips, the stills, the audio, everything. But it's been directed and edited, noticeably, by Todd Miller. He's the dude who made up Dinosaur 13 a few years back, and it comes with just this astonishing musical accompaniment from Matt Morton. Apollo 11 is amazing. The construction of it, the way Miller engages us with all the well-balanced intercutting of footage. He builds drama, tension, serious consequences. It never lets up, save for a few moments of like genuine wonder. I mean, the actual launch, the Earthburn, these are mesmerizing sequences, jaw on the floor stuff, like breathtaking, totally. It's a movie that should absolutely be shown in schools. I thought it was tremendous as a film, but also like as a documentation of the event itself. It really creates a sense of tangibility for a big historical event, but it also has this very captivating effect of depicting the world of its day as well, like kind of over the shoulder, if you get me. You really feel Apollo 11. It's unmissable. It's so worth seeing. 4 stars. I'm going to go back and see this in IMAX next week. I was blown away. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review.